Hello and welcome to the Plant-Based Revolution podcast with your host, myself, Neil Damrell from My Lifestyle Coach. Again, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your precious day to spend with me today, and I hope you're enjoying the previous podcast if you had to listen. And feel free to send out your likes if you've enjoyed the podcast, any comments you would like to pass on, and don't forget to go to iTunes and just post a review on there, and we will shout out, or I'll shout out anybody's put a review up on iTunes on the next podcast. So I do appreciate everybody's support, everybody that's listening. It's really, really appreciated. So today's topic, I'm just going to touch on how vitamin B12 deficiency can affect your body. So vitamin B12, especially if you're a vegan, it can be quite apparent. So restricting or eliminating animal products from your diet has been shown that potentially you could lack in vitamin B12 in your diet. So because we get all of our vitamin B12 from animal products. So if you are going from a plant-based diet and excluding meat completely and going completely vegan, then a vitamin B12 in your diet is something that you need to be aware of, and how you're going to get that into your diet if you're not consuming any animal products is something you need to sort of be aware of too. So if we sort of go through vitamin B12 essentially to begin with, and then what we'll do today, we're going to touch on a few symptoms and effects of the deficiency of vitamin B12, and conditions potentially associated with it, and again, like the causes that lacking, the causes that you're lacking in vitamin B12. So why are you lacking in vitamin B12, and and how you can go about improving, and maybe if you're looking at taking what supplements, maybe what supplement to take if you are looking to add vitamin B12 in your diet. So to begin with, vitamin B12 deficiency is actually one of the most prevalent nutritional deficiencies around, and it causes quite a wide range of symptoms, such as fatigue, forgetfulness, tingling in the hands and feet, and for a reason, there's a wide variety of reasons that this may occur, and like I said, we can sort of touch on those now. So to begin with, what is vitamin B12 and what does it do? So vitamin B12 has an important function in the production of DNA, which is the body's generic code. Now, DNA directs proper formation of every part of our bodies, and vitamin B12 also reduces homocytokines. I do apologise for my pronunciation, but that is one of the body's naturally occurring chemicals, and if these are low and not properly metabolised, then it can cause inflammation and toxic damage to the body. So it's something that we do need to be aware of, because any toxicity in the body can lead to a wide variety of problems. So one of the effects of vitamin B12 deficiency can be, and the most common is anemia, and that's the demised function of the red blood cell counts in our bodies. And if the vitamin B12 deficiency is a type of anemia. Sorry, I do apologise. Then that often produces fatigue and an increase in heart rate, and sometimes dizziness. So vitamin B12 is actually a required nutrient for producing normal red blood cell production, and it also helps to deliver oxygen throughout our bodies, and power all of our body's needs. So and that is mainly highlighted as metablastic anemia, which can be diagnosed if you went to see a GP and had a blood test, for example. And Another symptom and effect is peripheral peripheral neuropathy. So if I explain this in more detail, you might not understand what I've just said, but this is a type of nerve impairment. So this means that the nerves sometimes can be damaged or can be affected through the deficiency, and the chemical related to this is myelin. So myelin is a productive covering the peripheral needs. So vitamin B12 is a cofactor in myelin production, and thus a vitamin B12 deficiency can prevent this forming as needed. So with B12 deficiency, direct nerve damage combined with a decrease in myelin interferes with normal nerve function, and this can control movement and sensations within the body. So symptoms you want to look out for this would potentially be like tingling in the hands and feet, numbness, or weakness. All centered around maybe the arms and legs, and nerves. Generally around the hands and feet, but can extend to the hands and legs. So just keep an if it is something that you're concerned about, always visit your GP just to have that looked at. Also, another symptom or effect of vitamin B12 deficiency is dementia, and dementia is classified and can include forgetfulness, absent-mindedness, problem-solving difficulties, inability to concentrate, loss of ability to control oneself, hallucinations, and there are many causes of dementia, and recently vitamin B12 has been found to be a recognised cause, and scientific research suggests that dementia associated with vitamin B12 deficiency may be the result in elevated homocytokine levels, which we mentioned earlier, which is increasing the toxicity within the body and inflammation within the body. So other possible symptoms is depression is a possible manifestation of vitamin B12, accompanied with anemia and dementia. Stroke is also a medical condition that can be categorised by interruptions of blood flow to the brain, and vitamin B12 deficiency may increase the risk of stroke among young people who might not otherwise be at risk of a stroke. This is a highly controversial link at the moment, and more research is being done, so it's something that definitely to keep an eye out on, and obviously make sure you're doing your research first before you look into anything and make any predisposed assumptions, but more and more research is coming out, so it's an interesting topic to look out for. Another symptom potentially could be tongue swelling as well, and this is generally unusual smooth rough tongue, can be the result of a nutritional deficiency. So again, it all comes down to your diet. Are you getting it in through your food sources, or do you need to take a supplement if you are vegan? So like we've mentioned before, one of the main causes of vitamin B12 deficiency would be a low dietary intake, and this is the most common source. As I've mentioned before, vitamin B12 is a nutrient that can only be found in animal products such as meat, chicken, fish and dairy. So if you, like I mentioned earlier, if you are going from a plant-based diet into a full vegan diet, then vegans generally are at a higher risk of a low vitamin B12, being nutrient deficient in B12. But more and more foods are coming out that are fortified for vitamin B12. So you do find a lot of soy milks, etc. Plant-based milks are supplemented and fortified with vitamin B12. but also so seek out those as much as possible. Nutritional yeast is a really good product. If you are cutting out or dairy, and you can sprinkle that on your salads, add that into some smoothies, etc. That's really good for increasing your vitamin B12 as well. And like I said, a supplement, which is something that I've been taking for the last 6 months, and I've noticed definitely an increase in energy levels since taking that. I do have meat on the odd occasion, but probably not enough to get my recommended daily allowance, so having a supplement is just a nice backup system to make sure that I'm getting all the nutrients my body requires. So the final point I wanted to touch on would be the effect of low absorption in the body of vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 is absorbed by the small intestine and is required, but requires some preliminary processing by the stomach first of all. So conditions that can affect the stomach or small intestine can potentially interfere with the proper vitamin B12 absorption. So the intrinsic factor is the protein production in the stomach, and that combines with the vitamin B12, therefore it can be absorbed into the small intestine. So autoimmune disease, gastric bypass surgery, inflammation in the stomach, or situations that can affect the production and the function of the intrinsic factor, and thus have potentially a lack of vitamin B12 in a diet, may be inadequately absorbed into the body and instead is eliminated through the bowel movement. So not necessarily you're not getting it in for your diet, it's just obviously it can be a problem with your body processing it. So people that potentially have Crohn's disease, celiac disease, that could be an issue in terms of the right absorption in vitamin B12. So maybe looking at how you can manage that, definitely speak to your GP when it comes to that, in terms of increasing the intake into your diet, but also looking at obviously how you can go about changing the absorption rate to increase the amount of vitamin B12 in your diet. So also heavy use of alcohol can potentially cause damage of the lining of the stomach, which can interfere with the absorption of vitamin B12 and make you deficient as well. So if you do drink quite a lot of alcohol, I've had a problem with alcohol in the past, then a consistent use of heavy alcohol consumption can lead to problems in terms of a deficiency in vitamin B12. So there's certain medications also that can interfere with vitamin B12. Metformin, which is a common medication for the use of diabetes. So again, all of this comes back around in terms of looking after ourselves. If we're on medication for diabetes, that could eventually affect our vitamin B12 absorption, make us tired, fatigue, tingling in the hands, balance problems, headaches, dizziness. All these are symptoms of lack of vitamin B12. And if we're taking one pill for diabetes and then taking another pill for vitamin B12, all these factors is going to add up. You're compensating one with the other, and rather than looking at the root cause of your diabetes, you're just kind of masking the problems, all these kind of things. So looking at your diet is essential, and like I said, if you are vegan, maybe look at supplementation if that is something that you haven't looked into as yet. So this is a big topic that we can discuss for many more minutes, few hours to come if I would like to, but I just wanted to give you a short, brief podcast today, just kind of highlight the importance of vitamin B12, what it does, and especially if you are transitioning into a plant-based diet, potentially a vegan diet further down the line. Maybe it's something you need to be constantly aware of to make sure that you're getting the right nutrients in your body, and that will allow your body to optimize and perform at its best. So again, main tips to take away would be, if you are excluding a lot of animal products from your diet, look out for some fortified foods, and definitely a supplement that you should take. A vitamin B12 supplement will be essential. If you guys got any information, any questions you want to ask me about what supplement I do take, then feel free to send us a message, and I'll get back to you and highlight which one I've been taking. It's been a great supplement for me over the last 6 months, so I've been very happy with that. And just something to think of. So, get your diet right, and if you are feeling fatigued, tired, look at your diet, how you can analyse that, and then what things can you adjust in little tweaks every week, just to make sure you're getting the right nutrients in so you can perform at your best. Again, that brings me to the end of my podcast today. Thank you again for listening. Again, feel free to go over to iTunes, post a review on iTunes and a comment, and I'll give you a shout out on the next podcast. And again, if you've got any questions, anything you want to ask me, feel free to hit me up on social media, on Instagram at My Lifestyle Coach, on Facebook at My Lifestyle Coach, and on Twitter at My Lifestyle Coach as well. So looking forward to speaking to you. If you do send out some messages, it'd be really, really appreciated. And again, really, really appreciate you guys listening, taking time out of your precious day, and we'll catch you again next week.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.